Right, everybody, Troy Bradley joins us on Air Sports News. Troy, where are you right now?
Home in Albuquerque. So happy to be back in Albuquerque. I've been up in Colorado flying all summer. So good to be back home.
It's good to see you, my friend. Inducted into the Ballooning Hall of Fame in 2016.
Yes.
So much to talk about, so many things you've been involved in and going on. But first of all, before we go anywhere, tell us about Albuquerque. Are we going to get an event this year?
There's going to be an event. Everything's a go. Obviously, following COVID safe practices, whatever the state decides at that time, as well as the CDC. But yeah, as of right now, everything's moving forward. We're flying here every day in Albuquerque, so look forward to having everybody come and visit.
And what about America's Challenge? Have we got America's Challenge as well?
America's Challenge, everything is moving forward. So yeah, another great distance race. Fun to always watch for everybody and track. So yeah, we're trying to get back into the swing of things and get everything back to normal as much as possible.
It feels that way, doesn't it? It feels like it's coming back a little bit.
It does. No, I'm very happy with the progress so far.
Well, Troy, I mean, so many things you've done. I mean, how many Gordon Bennetts have you flown? You've flown a lot of Gordon Bennetts.
I think I've probably flown seven Gordon Bennetts, maybe dating back to about 1986 or 87 was my first one.
Yeah.
And the America's Challenge, I competed in those for the early years when it began as well. And winning with my wife back in the 90s as well. So yeah, the gas races are a lot of fun and always enjoyed doing it. And then I've also acted as support for many teams when I quit flying the actual Gordon Bennetts as well.
Yeah, I've got you as 8 American Challenges and seven Coupe Aeronautiques.
There you go.
You've flown over 20,000 passengers.
That's actually pretty old on that information. I've flown over 40,000, almost at 40,000 now. So yeah, it's been a long road. That's all I've ever done for a living, as well as a hobby and record setting and everything else. 41 years as a pilot. So yeah, I'm approaching 40,000 passengers carried.
It started at quite a young age for you, didn't it? Ballooning.
Yeah. My grandparents were some of the first balloonists in Colorado, and so I grew up with it. Knew from an early age that that's what I wanted to do. Was always intrigued with all the record setting and stuff as well. I was 14 when the Double Eagle 2 crossed the Atlantic for the first transatlantic crossing, and was always intrigued and wanting to be able to do a lot of those things as well. So yeah, I knew early on. I was 13 years old when I told my mom that I was going to be a balloon pilot for a living, and she thought I was totally nuts. It's like nobody was making money doing it then, so yeah. I've been very fortunate to have it as a livelihood, and this is all I've ever done for like I said, nearly 40 years now, flying balloons professionally as well.
That's one of my questions I always like to ask when I'm interviewing anybody from aviation is when did you first get your idea that this could be your life? Yeah. You could do it for a living?
Yeah,
straight away.
Yeah, I knew it right away. It was actually, we were at a balloon race up in Grand Island, Nebraska. I was with my grandparents. I remember because I was 13, and there was a balloon there with Anheuser-Busch for advertising. And I got to talking to those pilots, and they told me how they traveled all over the country. They flew at the Kentucky Derby, they flew at the Super Bowl, and listening to those guys, and they're telling me that they get paid to go do this. I'm like, wow, I'm here for free with my grandparents. It's like, if somebody wants to pay me to go do it, even better. So, and a lot of people always feel like if you do it for a living, that it becomes work and it's not your hobby anymore and anything. But I think I've shown pretty much exactly the opposite. I love getting up and flying every day. It provides the opportunity to do it more often than anybody else. And if on a slight chance that I have a day off, I'll actually take out still one of my own private balloons and fly for fun. So I still, I think at last count, my daughter said we personally own 13 balloons as well. So outside of the company balloons. So we still go out and fly for fun as well.
That's incredible. I mean, it is a challenge, isn't it, with anything aviation-wise, when you make it your living. There is that chance of burning out and it becoming, too much routine. And to not do that, to avoid it. What do you think the secret is? Yeah. How do you think you keep your excitement?
So my secret to my excitement in it, and like Albuquerque, I've flown more than anybody ever. This valley here, I know like the back of my hand. I've flown it more than anyone. It's always a new challenge though, because you're getting new construction, new areas, you know, that you have to worry about flying or landing. So there's a challenge from the flying standpoint, but really what keeps my interest and what keeps me going is the passengers that I have every day. I always tell them, I say, I'm looking through your eyes as a first time experience. So I'm putting smiles on faces every day. These people are enjoying the thrill of a lifetime, and I'm getting to do what I love to do. So it's really hard to beat that. You know, it's unbelievable that I get to do that on a daily basis and make so many people happy. And so, yeah, that's what probably keeps me going. If all those hours were solo over the last 41 years, I may have gotten burnt out if that was the job, you know?
So other people watching who are not from ballooning, I mean, that's one thing we try and do with Air Sports News. We're trying to get the different disciplines of the sky to have a look at what the other ones are doing. And I must say, when I first found out about the balloon fiesta in Albuquerque, the scale of it, tell everybody watching a little bit about the fiesta. Give us some idea of numbers and all about it.
Oh, yeah, sure. Fiesta's massive. It's an amazing event. It was started, this will be our 49th year. This would have been our 50th year had COVID not shut us down last year. But 49 years of running the fiesta, which had actually started as a promotion for a radio station here in town for their 50th anniversary. And so they decided to invite 13 balloons from around the country to come in and have this event at what's a mall that's really in the center of town now. It's not the best place to be flying. But right after that event happened, Sid Cutter, who organized it, he started looking at the FAI and all the stuff that happens, and he realized that there had never been a world championship for hot air balloons. Right. And so Sid was a very competitive guy, and he said, "Hey, we need to work on doing this." And so he actually put together and hosted the first 2 world championships for hot air balloons in Albuquerque in 71 and 73, or 73 and 75. And so those were our first 2 world championships. After that, you know, it went up for bid, and it's gone all around the world to different locations. Albuquerque's actually bid on it in the past and hasn't gotten it back because there's so many places around the world now that are very good at and suited at hosting this as well. So I think it really put ballooning and Albuquerque on the map. And so when we quit doing the world championships after it went up for bid for other places, you know, the city and Sid and all the organizers said, well, we still want to have an event here. And so that's what's evolved into our Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, so that we could have an annual event still. And it's truly, for anybody that's a balloonist, it's the mecca of ballooning. It's if you are a balloonist anywhere in the world, you have to make that pilgrimage at least once in your lifetime to Albuquerque for the festival. And usually if you come once, you're going to come again because it's that good of an event. So we'll have 550 balloons this year. We have the gas balloons. We'll have 100 special shape balloons. So there's nothing else like it in the world that occurs on an annual basis. You know, Metz, France, and there's some other places that have some wonderful events. But for an annual event, Albuquerque is definitely the place to be.
And the numbers of people who pass through. Have you got
we'll have through the gates during those 9 days of the event, we'll have 1 million people that'll come through those gates. Wow. Which is absolutely incredible. And one of the interesting things about Albuquerque as an aviation event is the crowd isn't segregated from the pilots and the aircraft. You actually can be on the field, moving amongst the pilots, going and talking to them. The pilots love meeting everybody and the kids, and you know, handing out balloon cards and things like that. So it's really one of the only places you can go out and actually, you know, intermingle with all the pilots and the crews. And a lot of times, you know, the people say, "Hey, if you're free, come on, we'll let you join our crew and come on and chase the balloon as well." So so it's kind of like going to the Indy 500 and becoming part of the pit crew, which is unheard of.
yeah. And you even have all the TV stations and all the radio stations. They come and set camp and they broadcast from there.
Oh yeah, world media is amazing. The number of images worldwide are incredible. They've got a whole marketing and media team that works on all of that. There's announcers, there's people that are doing things on the field as well, and they're also live streaming. And so there's many ways to attend Fiesta without actually being there through all the social media now and all the media outlets. So I don't know how many people that I've talked to around the world that say, "Oh yeah, I've seen that on TV or I've seen it on my newspaper or whatever," and they live in some remote place that never even heard of.
Yeah.
So it definitely has a worldwide reach.
Tell me about some of the challenges. We were just talking before we started recording about your flight with Leonid, and just tell me about some of the big challenges that you've flown.
So I've crossed the Atlantic and the Pacific by balloon. The Atlantic was long ago, back in 1992, for the Chrysler Transatlantic Challenge, which Don Cameron organized. We flew 5 identical Rosier systems across the Atlantic to be the first race across the Atlantic. And that was a remarkable adventure. I was young at the time, 28 years old. And so I felt that I got to be part of it was quite an honor. And that really set me off on a record-setting kind of life and doing things. I did a lot of, the gas. I was obviously gas rated before that. I've been a gas pilot since I was 21. Private pilot certificate for hot air balloons when I was 16. And that definitely got my interest in the record setting. And so I did a lot of the Gordon Bennett's, the America's Challenges. And the thing that is good about those events is they're very public. They're very, there's a lot of notoriety. You're getting to compete against your peers, which is a fun thing to do. The problem with those events is you're taking off at a set time. You're
Right.
taking off at when the event says you're going to launch. And what that's led to is some very interesting flights. I've had many myself. I've landed in the middle of the night. I've landed in thunderstorms. I've landed in 40-knot winds.
Yeah.
Some great adventures, great stories, but also the kind that you go, wow, no, maybe that wasn't the best thing to do,
Right.
And so I just feel that the dangers of doing all of that were, the problem was in the weather. And it's not the weather. The organizers just have a schedule that they have to keep to and all that. And so I really started leaning more towards records because I love the long distance flying. I love the adventure and going along great places. But with record setting, I control the entire thing. I control when we launch, when we do things, when, what weather system we're launching into. So we can have very great long flights without having all that pressure of, we're flying in the wrong weather system.
Yeah.
And so that's why I enjoy the records, and I've done many in different sizes of balloons. I was the first to break records in hot air, gas, and Rosiers. And the only other person to have done it in all 3 is David Hempelman Adams. So, and David's a good friend of mine as well. But the records are more satisfying to me from that standpoint. And the one that I was really big was with Leonid. Right after Breitling Orbiter 3 went around the world, I was part of several around the world efforts as well. And once they made it around the world, the very next day, I had breakfast with Richard Abruzzo, and Richard and I were actually planning our own around the world attempt together the following year. Had none of the teams made it, we were ready to go and set with a team and plan. And so when that went down and we didn't get the chance to be the first, Richard, being an Abruzzo, his thing was, well, if I can't be first, I'm really not that interested in it. And so it's like, all right. So I told Richard, I said, well, in the back of my mind, I have got another record that I think would be really, fun to do and intriguing. And I said, it's going after the duration and distance records for straight gas balloons. And those were records his father held. And he looked at me as almost was incredulous that I even tried to, suggest that we go after his dad's records. And the hard part with that is it's a much more difficult system to fly. You have less options than you do with the Rosier. And so it was a big challenge. And it stuck in my head that's something I really wanted to be able to do. And Ben Abruzzo and Maxie Anderson were my childhood heroes. So it's like, if I could go out there and, kind of walk in their footsteps and be able to emulate what they did and, maybe break their record, hopefully, there's no guarantees on record breaking either. Yeah. But that meant a lot to me. So I immediately started working on that project without Richard. He decided not to join me on that one. And it took a long time to put together. It was really a very difficult project to put together. Started probably in 2000. By 2005, I was doing it in earnest, really putting the system together. We built the balloon. We shipped it over to Japan in 2007. And my first co-pilot was actually Peter Cuneo here in Albuquerque. And Peter's a great gas balloonist. I taught him to fly gas. And he and I went over to Japan for 2 months. We sat there and we never got the weather to fly. It never, came into fruition where the weather lined up. It's hard to explain to, people that the Japanese were like, it looks really nice here. Why aren't you flying? And it's like, well, here it's nice, but halfway to, across the Pacific is not so nice.
Yeah.
And that same year, 2007, 2008, in that winter, a gentleman named Michio Kanda launched out near Tokyo. And 18 hours later, he went down in a huge thunderstorm and was never heard from again. Some of the debris actually washed ashore years later. They found some of the tanks from his balloon and such. And that kind of made everybody take that second look and say, okay, this is very serious. We understand why you're not flying. We get it.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that season, my wife and I made the decision to go ahead and leave the balloon in Japan to come back and try again. I lost Peter as a partner. He decided not to follow up with that. And we paid for storage in Japan from 2007 to 2015. So we left the balloon over there because our feeling was if we brought it back, we'd lose momentum on the project. It would be, it'd be sitting in some warehouse in the US and just never thought of again. It's kind of like, forget that, we're done. But I believed we could do it. I believed we had the equipment to do it, the know-how to do it. And so we left it all there. And fortunately, meeting Leonid, I was the president of the Balloon Federation of America. Leonid was the head of the Russian Balloon Federation. So we would meet at the FAI CIA meetings annually. And every year, Leonid was very curious. He'd say, Troy, how's your project going? And I'd say, well, we're okay. The balloon's still there. I just need to, get a sponsor, get something put together. And so finally, when Leonid said, how's your project? One year I said, well, great, but maybe you should come fly with me. And so he took another sip of wine at a party and he goes, all right, well, let me think about that. Wow. And it was that easy. Basically, I knew he had the interest in the project, and I knew he had the means to come and help complete it with the funds and everything as well. And from that moment on, we formed this partnership that has just been incredible. Leonid and I, he calls me his sky brother. I mean, I think we landed better friends than we took off. And so it was a wonderful partnership. Once in the air, Leonid was always good about, he knew it was my project. So everything would be, no, Troy, you make the decisions. This is your project. I'll listen to you. I'll go with you or whatever. But my way of flying is a little different than some pilots. So a lot of people will have a pilot and a co-pilot, and the pilot is the final say, decision, and all this. When I'm doing something like this, pilot or co-pilot, it doesn't matter what your title is. You're both up there, and it's both your lives, and so it requires everybody's feedback. And boy, once we were airborne, and we'd made the right decision to go. Leonid was just 100% on board, and boy, what a brilliant man as far as looking at the weather and all the different scenarios and trajectories. I couldn't have asked for a better partner. We really clicked. And what I loved about that whole project was with Leonid coming on board, it was, I'm a U.S. pilot. He's a Russian pilot. Luke Trulemans did our weather out of Belgium. The Japanese were wonderful to work with on helping us launch. The Mexicans with helping us recover. We had the Eimers in Germany running trajectories for us. Swiss pilots that were sending stuff. It was truly a worldwide effort. It wasn't when you go to a Gordon Bennett or America's Challenge or something. You've got the Russian team, you've got the Polish team, you've got the U.S. team. This was just a balloon team. This is just a bunch of guys from around the world with a common interest and a common goal. And that's what I really loved about it, is it really brought people together. We were balloonists. Nationality it mattered not at all. It was about ballooning.
That's what makes aviation so special, isn't it? You get off the ground, you get in the sky, and you forget about countries. It's just people.
Yes.
Together. Wow.
Yes. Yeah.
So such a great story. I'm so glad we got that from you. Tell me a bit about the museum, Troy.
So we have the Albuquerque International Balloon Museum here. It's actually named after Maxie Anderson and Ben Abruzzo, It's a long title with the Anderson Abruzzo Albuquerque International. But it's actually a city-owned museum. That's what a lot of people probably don't realize. The city of Albuquerque is very generous in supporting ballooning because we give so much back to the community as well. I mean, it's put us on the map. And so the Balloon Fiesta Park where we launch is actually a city park that's owned by Albuquerque. The Fiesta leases it for the week. The Balloon Museum actually looks out over the park. And so you can be in the museum and look at all the field from there. And it's the City Cultural Services that owns and operates it. I'm actually on the foundation, which is the private side for raising funds for the museum as well, from the private sector. And also on the board of trustees. We have a meeting this afternoon, as a matter of fact, about Fiesta stuff coming up. And just the amount of people in Albuquerque, when you come here, it's everyone's a balloonist. I mean, so either they're a volunteer during the festival, they're a pilot, they're crew, they volunteer at the museum. People just get involved and love the ballooning, and the museum is absolutely an extraordinary facility for ballooning to be showcased. There's nothing else like it in the world. It's a beautiful building with interesting architecture. As you enter the building, it looks like a dome, but it looks like a balloon inflating on its side. And as you walk in, then at the very far back side of it, there's windows that go up that look over the Fiesta field, and they're in the shape of basically a balloon standing upright. So it was very well thought out on how it was going to be put together and the architecture and everything. And it's just loaded with all kinds of memorabilia and things that you won't see in any other balloon museum in the world. And we have so much of a collection that we have an annex that is off-site that we can't even display everything. It's impossible. We have so much of a collection, and we're currently actually out at the balloon or at the airport for Albuquerque. Also, we've partnered with the museum and the airport. So as people arrive in Albuquerque, there's a display with a lot of great artifacts out there that they can see at the airport, and then that'll intrigue them to go probably to the Balloon Museum as well. So highly recommended. I had one of my pastors this morning said, what things do you recommend in Albuquerque? I said, the Balloon Museum. I mean, every city has a children's museum, an art museum, the zoo, things like that. And we have some great things like that as well. But the Balloon Museum is really unique to Albuquerque. And we also house the FAI CIA's Hall of Fame in the museum. So that's been a great partnership. That started, one of the largest benefactors of the museum is Jacques Sokup. And at the time when the museum was being built, Jacques was actually president of the CIA. And so he had a museum up in South Dakota, not nearly as well attended. And so they closed down, and basically he donated his entire collection to the Balloon Museum here in Albuquerque. And so that was a great head start for developing a collection as well.
Fantastic. Well, and next year as well, a big year, 50 years.
50 years, yeah. So we'll have a major display for the 50th anniversary of Fiesta. Yeah, it's everybody's all in on that, excited about it. The Balloon Fiesta, the museum, the city, everybody. Yeah, it's an exciting time to have, say, 50 years. I mean, half a century of doing this here is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it's come a long way. It's come a long way since it was the anniversary this week, was it, of the first flight with what was it, a rooster, a goat? And,
yeah. The animals. So the test animals, just like they do monkeys and dogs now with NASA,
I wanted to ask you, Troy, we've just had the Inspiration 4 SpaceX first civilian flight up into orbit there. And it must mean something to you because the kind of records you've flown, the things you've done, getting out there for days and days, you must have an affinity feeling about these civilians taking a space flight. You must understand and feel a little bit what they're feeling.
Yeah, I think it's exciting that we've reached that time in our lifetime that we're starting to see that, where it's becoming a more commonplace type thing. Aviation has grown so much in such a short period of time, and what we're able to do and the future and the possibilities is just absolutely extraordinary. What's exciting to me is actually my daughter, who's a balloon pilot. She flies gliders, drones as well. She's finishing her senior year right now in mechanical engineering, and she's going on to a PhD direct program for aeronautical engineering. So she's seeing the future of everything that's possible, and new aircraft and new designs and things like that. So it's pretty exciting to see that something from a humble ballooning beginning, that she's taking that to a whole nother level now.
Wow. Well, I'd like to line her up for a chat with me in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, she's quite the little she's a go-getter for sure. Fantastic. And she's flown all around the world doing different things. When she was in high school, she went over to Lindstrand Balloons to serve as an internship to learn about that with Per Lindstrand. And she's a balloon enthusiast out and out. And she's actually also in charge of the young aeronauts program for the Balloon Federation of America. So 30 something or under balloonists kind of give them a social part of the sport as well, outside of all the gray hairs like me.
Well, that's brilliant, Troy. I think that's a good place to end it. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and seeing you and finding out about yourself. And great luck with the Fiesta. How long is it? When is it now? It's not too long.
So yes, it'll start a week from Saturday. So not this Saturday, but the following. It's always the first Saturday in October, whatever that date falls on, and runs for 9 days. So we actually, the Friday prior to that, we'll have what we call Albuquerque Aloft, and a lot of the balloons are in town ahead of the schedule, and they assign balloons schools to go launch at or tether at. And so basically we take the Balloon Fiesta to all the schools on that Friday prior to, so that all the kids get to see it. And most schools will have field trips or days that they'll be at Fiesta, or their parents will bring them out on the weekends. So it's great for all the young people to get out there.
Great. Fantastic. Well, I look forward to making it there one year.
Yes, hopefully. You need to for sure.
Thank you very much, Troy. It's been great speaking to you. You have a great afternoon.
All right. You take care.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.